Well, the weather may have caused a little bit of a delay in some people getting here, but I thought I would go ahead and start because we do have a fun, creative activity that Dr. Phil, our guest speaker, is going to do with us, and we hope all of you will do it. It's just such a fun experience. Even the guys, we hope you'll do it. I'm speaking to my husband right now. No, and all the other husbands back here. But anyway, we do hope that you'll stay and do that at the end of his presentation, because I think it is kind of formative. And we did it last year, and I learned something about myself, and so I just feel like it's worth staying for if you can. I'm Deb Davis. I'm a co-founder of this chapter, Space Coast IANDS. It's under the big organization, IANDS.org. I always say that because I want to encourage you to go to IANDS.org. If you, we have some pens and paper over there if you want to take notes, particularly for the two new people that are with us. But IANDS.org is our national organization. Their conference is this weekend. It starts on Wednesday. And I feel very fortunate that I'm going to get to go this year. And I invited my daughter to go with me. And I'm just so excited about her growth, her spirituality growth. And I think she's just going to get a tremendous amount out of it. And then the other thing that's very exciting is we have a lot of local people that are going to be guest speakers there. Serena Baptista, she's with us today. She's got some books over there that she wrote, and I was showing some of the new people that there's books over there that you can check out and bring back whenever it's convenient for you. We bring them in. We do hope you check them out and enjoy them. You won't find very much in our public libraries about near-death experience, out-of-body experiences. Spirituality in general, you won't find much. I came and looked, and I look at our libraries. I don't find much, but we now have a nice little library of books. We even have more than that, and we've had them cataloged now. And so there's a little card in the back. You can put your name and phone number, and then put the card in the front. There's a little pocket in the front. It's very simple kind of library process, but it's working for us pretty well. People bring their books back, and we get them back into the boxes pretty quick. But anyway, Serena is going to be at the conference, as is Mark Anthony. He's local. He lives in Indian Harbor. He's a medium, psychic, judge. He's got a lot of titles, somewhat like our Dr. Phil today. And he's written several books too that you are probably aware of. And then let's see. There's several speakers that have spoken at our group that are going to be there. So I'm excited to actually meet them, touch them, and give them a hug, because they've been our speaker. They may have spoken via Zoom, but I'll get to meet them. So very excited about that. Let's see. And I'm happy you're all here. Maria, thank you for coming and getting here. The rain is kind of iffy and yucky out there, and we have to be careful. But I'm glad you're here, and I'm going to let Ellen, if you'll go over and get the bucket. Everyone did you get your little ticket? Get your little ticket. Ellen, give her a little ticket. She might be the winner. What we do is we have a little thank you gift for coming. And we do want you to not only come, but try to bring a guest, if you will, each time, because we feel like that if they leave here, they might feel more hope, more purpose in their life. And so we want as many people to come as possible. We've had as many as 20 people, 30 people, and then some months we are back to our oldies but goodies that are always here with us. We have two new guests today, which is great.
So the last four are 3616.
There's our new friend. And this is her gift. Thank you. Thank you very much. So it's just a small thank you for being here. I'm not really sure what's in it. It might be a wooden spoon. I'm not sure. Our friend Helma has donated all the little participation gifts. So thank you to her. She's not here, but she usually is. All right. I do want to give Dr. Phil as much time as possible, but I do want to cover a couple of things. Next month will be September the 8th. And we're going to be celebrating our co-founder's heavenly birthday. Most of you know who Lynn was. Lynn Grace was a really good friend of mine that got me started on my spiritual journey back in 2010. I feel like that was one of those hard years that you can sometimes have in your life, where 3 different key people in my life transitioned. I didn't call it that at that time. I called it died. And where the heck did they go? I wasn't really sure, because they were my parents and my Jewish husband at the time. And I was just this little Methodist girl growing up, and I had no real true idea about where these 3 key people in my life went when they died, because one was sort of atheist, one was sort of agnostic, and my husband was Jewish. I did know where my dog went, because dogs go to heaven. So that was my, the best part of my year. I lost him, and it was hard. He was 17 years old. He was a little dachshund. And that was so hard. And that year was a very hard year for me. And I'm just going to tell you this real quick, because I need to ask you for something. But anyway, that same year, I just was helping someone move furniture, and I fell and tore my rotator cuff. And no big deal, I thought, but it wouldn't go away. It kept hurting. Long story short, I had my neck x-rayed, and the surgeon said, I need you to look at this. This is the worst spinal stenosis of anyone I have ever seen. And I was 50-something at the time, I guess. And he said, you should have some symptoms. And I said, symptoms? Like what? He said, you should be dragging a leg, or your arm should be paralyzed or numb at least and tingling. I said, no, I don't have any of those symptoms. And he said, well, I need you to get to a surgeon, because if you should fall or be in a car wreck, you will be paralyzed from the neck down. And I had just buried my husband, and he had been paralyzed from the waist down for the whole last year of his life. And talk about a tough year. So I didn't want to go that route. So in September, that was diagnosed. In November, I had the surgery. And it ended up being a tough surgery. They cut me, turned me over, cut me, all that. It was hard. A lot of muscles were damaged. But anyway, I got through it, and that was a good thing. And I had someone in my life that was able to take care of me. That was another good thing. It's funny about life. You have the good things and you have the bad things. And some of the good things turn out to be bad. But anyway, I am here to ask you for some prayers, because I now have to have another surgery in September. So I may or may not be here. That's why I'm telling you. But I have to have a spinal fusion of my lower back. And I wouldn't have known that my back looked like I had been in a car wreck. Or the guy, I guess he knew I was from Texas. He said, did you fall off a horse when you were little? I go, no. He goes, well, your back is a wreck. and you need to get it supported. So I'm going to have this spinal fusion surgery on the 11th. So just say some prayers for me. And now that I know, I heard from Dr. Phil, I listened to him tell the difference between prayer and meditation. Prayer being you're usually asking God for something. You're telling him almost, please let this go well, make this happen, do this for me. Meditation is when you listen. And so one thing I know, I'm going to have a lot of time to listen. If the results being that I'm going to be in bed recuperating and getting therapy, etc. But I'm going to have more time, I think, to be still, because that has been the hardest thing about meditation for me, is I just cannot get still. But I think God has a way of making you be still. And so I will be still and I will be meditating. And you can pray and meditate for me, or on my behalf, if you will, that all things will turn out. Because I feel like I finally found my purpose in life at 70 years old, 68, whatever I was when I first started this. And I feel like I want to continue a while. I know that Lynn has been helping me as much as she's here with us and she's inspired me to continue. But I want to keep going until I look out and I see young people. I want to see a lot of young people in the audience, and I want to see men. We usually always have many more women, but I want to see men spiritually growing, and I want to see my kids' age group becoming more spiritually aware. So that's my goal, and I haven't reached it. So hopefully I'll be around at the end of September to be here. I might be in a walker, which seems so weird to me to say that I'll be in a walker, but I may be in a walker. And but anyway, continue, because we can always heal. I healed so well from the other surgery. And so anyway, enough about me. Let's go on to our speaker next month. She's very interesting. I think you're going to find her very interesting. She believes that we are all angels. We Are Angels is the name of her book. Her name is Angeli, I think it is. She is from Italy, and she's had 3 near-death experiences in her lifetime. I think she's probably a little older than me. Yeah, she may be in her 80s. And so I feel like we're blessed to get to hear from her. She'll be zooming in from Connecticut. And she built her own labyrinth on her property in Connecticut. It's the largest labyrinth in the world, is what I understood. Maybe not in the whole world, but in the United States anyway. Let me reframe that. So anyway, I want to know why she did it, and I know she's going to tell us, and she's going to tell us about her near-death experiences, and I want to know how that transformed her, and it certainly did from a very early age. I think she was 3 when she had her first. So anyway, what I love about having our guests like Dr. Phil today is he's going to tell us about his near-death experience, and he's going to tell us how his life has been transformed. And I believe every time I hear someone else's story about how they transformed, it transforms me just a little bit each and every time. Mike probably thinks I'm a little strange. I'm always listening to near-death experience stories on TV, and I just get so inspired by it. So Dr. Phil, he's also a reverend. He comes from Casadega. I met him on his front porch. I don't know if he actually remembers that. I was hoping he wouldn't, but I'm going to tell a little story about him. Went to Casadega with Angie and Mary, and we were wandering all around, and it was early in the morning, very early. We were there a little too early. And I climbed up these stairs and I did hear some barking, dogs barking. I go to the door, knock, 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 knock. I'm thinking it's a place to go in and look at crystals or look at something. And this man comes to the door and says, yes, yes, can I help you? And I went, oh, well, we were going to come in. And he was looking at me like, no way. Well, anyway, a couple hours later, now I'm at a little seminar, and who should walk in but Dr. Phil? And I'm sitting on the front row thinking, gosh, I hope this guy doesn't remember me. I was the one that woke him up. But anyway, that's how I first met him. But he was very nice. He never even brought it up. And I'm only bringing it up because I thought it was very funny how you meet people and then they become a part of your life. So Dr. Phil has been here with us before, and we had such a great creative activity that I want to give him time to do with you today. But I've met him there. I don't know if any of you have been over there, but if you haven't, it's not what, an hour and 40 minutes? Is it about that far from here? Yeah. You got to go home. Well, anyway, it's not very far from here, and an hour and a half. Yeah, it's towards Sanford, that area, and so check it out. There's a lot of spiritualists there. It's called a spiritualist camp, and there's a lot of fun things to explore and learn about there. Phil, can you join us up here? We are so happy to have you. And we know you came from Orlando, had to go through all that weather and traffic and watch this. We don't want you to stumble over that.
We're doing good.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here, and let's give him a hand.
Well, good afternoon. And this is my second time here, so thank you for having me. And I'm going to talk about my near-death experience.
You have water?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, good.
So, and I've actually had two of them, but the first one was the most profound one. So, and that happened when I was 12 years old. And I'm riding a bicycle on April 3rd, 1970, and doing my paper route. And some person then ran a yield sign in his Jeep and then dragged me under that Jeep for 50 yards. All right, so with that one, that was a near-death experience, which I would call out-of-body experience. And that one, I could see the crumpled body on the road, and then just poof. Now I'm in white light. All right, and I was in a coma, I think, for 3 days on that one. And so, but when you get into that envelopment of the white light, you get to know that the universe is just love and peace. It was like meeting the God force, or what spiritualists call infinite intelligence. But the vibration was that love and peace. If we get into meditation, if people do that and they get to the point where they get to what we call the void, where you hear nothing and you're floating on air, as it seems, that is the experience that I had there. Now, a couple things that before this near-death experience is I was brought up Catholic. And I had my psychic gifts and mediumship gifts. when I was a kid. That's when, for the most part, the veil is the thinnest. And my mother taught in Catholic school, so these things, being a Catholic, they didn't exist, or I had an overactive imagination. You know, it's like that was the culture there. And so when the near-death experience happened, after what I would call this bliss, then I had a visit from Archangel Michael. And so we kind of like traveled the universe, kind of like the creation of the universe. And it was knowledge that we were given at that time. And then all the gifts of spirit are available to you. And does anybody know who what the gifts of spirit is? That's from 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verses 4 to 12. So that's when spirit, and it's called baptism by fire. All right. And that's when spirit imparts you the gift of wisdom, knowledge, and discernment, the speaking in tongues and understanding tongues, and prophecy. So the first three would be the power gifts. Those next three would be the speaking gifts. And a lot of the Pentecostals do the speaking in tongues. However, how I approach it is through meditation with the speaking and interpretation of tongues. And that means if I have a German guide or spirit coming in and talking to me, that I will interpret it into English. Right? That's the way that gift of spirit works for me. And of course, if I have a Palladian guide, then I'll understand that light language. Okay, so the third gift, speaking gift, is then prophecy. So in that case, everybody's a prophet, everybody's a psychic, everybody's a medium. You just have to acknowledge that gift. And then we have the healing gifts, which is miracles that happen right away. We have healing, and then we have faith that healing's gonna take place. But faith for the one in healing is important, because that kind of tells us, like in the prayer for spiritual healing, that in the first stanza, the end of it is, and I must do my part. All right? Half the part is believing, and half the part is doing. All right? And I had a friend in Michigan who worked for me, and he had lung cancer. He had a third of his right lobe removed. And unfortunately, he didn't do his part. He continued to smoke and he continued to drink. And, you know, he's not here anymore. So it's important when we look at healing that we have to have that faith and we have to do our part. But all this is some of that knowledge that I received in that near-death experience. The one thing that came, and I'll touch on it a little bit more, the one thing about that is that you have to have faith in yourself, that when we're in that blissful light, that we're part of everything. All right? So our higher self is a part of the universe. So your guides are actually a part of your higher self, because everything is connected. So being Catholic then, what I saw when I came back into my body is like Mother Mary just coming down and putting my soul back in the physical body. And I'm waking up in a hospital and I'm looking at a white ceiling. And my first words are, and am I in heaven? All right? So that's kind of the experience that we have. Now, what comes out of that near-death experience, it is the vibration of the bliss, but then it's also a vibration of no fear, right? No fear of death and no fear of your abilities with those gifts from Spirit. Also, it is no fear, and you're giving these supernatural abilities that the Native Americans believed in, that now you can do anything. And I'll get back to that. But when you have a near-death experience, there's going to be changes in your life. You know, it's like David Bowie, changes, come and feel the strange. All right? So so we have these changes. There are going to be physical changes. There's going to be emotional changes, mental changes, and spiritual changes. All right. Now, the physical changes, I guess, go with the emotional ones sometimes. And so I have a couple scars to prove that kind of near-death experience. But the thing that changed me the most there, I was no longer an identical twin. Right? So I couldn't get away with stuff anymore because I could be recognized as myself. So
You were an identical twin?
I still am. So
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yes,
So you had an identical brother.
yeah. He lives in Chicago.
Oh.
So
But when you came back, you felt so transformed.
well, no, it wasn't that. It was a physical scar.
Oh,
So right, it is why that. So it's the physical kind of aspect of that change. All right. Now, the emotional part of it is, first of all, the guy who ran me over calls my mother and says, I think I just killed your son. All right. So it's, if you can imagine getting that call as a mother. So it's, you know, there's emotional there. There's emotional things in my family because I was like pondering on life and death there for a while. And so, but also in that near-death experience, in that bliss, you could feel the prayers going up. Just like you ask for prayers, they're coming your way, Deb. Um, but you can feel that vibration of the love and the prayers going up there. So, and I do feel that that had some part of me coming back on my soul path. So, getting back to the emotional part of things, it's being in middle school and coming back and a little bit handicapped. It was kind of tough, you know. So, and I can remember, I was in seventh grade at the time. And then at eighth grade, still, you know, pretty much scarred up and stuff. Then at the end of 8th grade, right, when we're graduating and actually going into high school, we had sitting in front of me, there were 4 of us at a table, and then Violet Fulton. Okay, I just had my like 50th high school reunion last month. So God bless her, she's in spirit now. But then she goes to me and says, well, you're the ugliest guy in class. so, so, okay, you know how all this is, so you just have to go for it. But just thankfully, there was another person there who just says, well, you're a cutie. So, okay, I was saved emotionally with that. So,
Good.
but that's the emotion you're going, and there's part of the mental aspect of things that we have to overcome a little bit. All right? But fortunately, when we get on our spiritual path, when we look at the spirituality behind it, then if we believe in ourselves, if we have that faith, then things are going to work out. Now, getting back to the supernatural abilities, this is no fear thing. This is people like me that drives my mother crazy. When we're going down the river, tubing and stuff, that we'd go over to the bridge over the river and we throw out our tubes as far as they could and then jump off the bridge into one hole that's only about this big, and if you miss it, you're going to be scarred up by rocks. Okay? But the thing of it is, if you hit that hole, you just pop up and grab your tube. So, all right? So no fear on that one. So, okay, and that kind of transformed my life a little bit that way with that no fear. But a couple years later, when I was 14, then we had some visitors from California, and there was a son who was, or the son was about maybe, I was 14, he might have been 11 or 12. And then we went out to down by the river, and down by the river there was a gravel pit. So it was mid-August, and the gravel pit had kind of caked over. And so we went out and walked on it. And as he's going out, the kind of cake over the thing's a little bit flexible. So he's going about 5 minutes on this, jumping up and down like it's a trampoline, just having the fun of his life. And then I'm probably between me and you, and where he's jumping up and down, and then it breaks. All right, and he's up to his neck and neck right now, and sinking. So then I'm looking at it and having no fear, and then I had to get out to that edge, hoping that it doesn't break, and I go through too, and then he's going down, and then I grabbed him and pulled him out, and then fortunately saved his life. But he didn't want to go down to the river and kind of brush off this mud before we got home. So we got home and we had to use the hose to do it, but with screaming parents. So, but that's kind of like with that experience of the universe and everything connected. It's that we have to believe that fear, right? Any type of fear does not exist. All right. Fear is the opposite of love, not hate, it's fear. And so when we look at the fear and the love relationship, if we disregard that fear, then we're the supernatural being that we're supposed to be. Right? So, and from that point, then over the years, I would say I got more reckless or less reckless than what I was in my teenage years and maybe early 20s, driving my mother crazy, I'll tell you that. Bless her soul. So anyway, at age 19, and then I guess I'll step back and forth. And then about maybe 10 years ago is when I met Raymond Moody. And Raymond Moody is the person who coined the term NDE. And I met him in Maine. And so he would say that basically there's two experiences of the MDE through his research. It's poof, we go to the white light, or we go through a tunnel and meet our relatives. Okay? So when I was 19 years ago, and this is in Michigan, and so I had that other near-death experience with the tunnel type meeting, seeing your family members at the end of the tunnel. And so with this particular one, we were driving. I was a passenger in the front passenger seat. There were two of us in the back. One was my brother and the driver. And the driver in Michigan hit a patch of black ice. And it was a 2-lane road, and he went swerving right towards traffic. And so he overcorrected. And this car kind of ended up flipping in the ditch maybe 5 or 6 times. So as this experience was that we ended up upside down, and a little tree stopped us about that big. All right. So in my experience, like that one is like, again, being Catholic, Archangel Michael came down and just took me out. All right. And then I see all this tunnel and my relatives who had passed on the left, and then on the right were future people I hadn't even met. One of them was Anne and my children. All right. So it's, and this rollover thing seemed, it was like slow motion. It like took forever for that car to stop. So in college, at 19, I was on the track team, just point too. So I wind up on the front dashboard, laying across of it. It's like Archangel Michael put me back in there. And I had to kick out the window and pull out the other guys and wait for the cops and ambulance to show up. And then I was the only one uninjured in this particular accident. All right, what makes this story amazing is when they flip that car over, it's where I was sitting, the hood was pushed down right into the seat. All right, now this is 79, so no seat belts. All right. So if you can say that might have saved me too, but I do believe it was Archangel Michael pulling me out and then putting me back in. But that is part of our supernatural abilities to transcend that time and space. And there's another incident that Ann and I were maybe about 8 years ago, returning from a psychic fair in Ocala, and we're only like 3 blocks from home. And the way I see it is a person's coming out and going to T-bone us, all right? My version of the story is I T-bone this guy and kill him. All right. Ann's version of it is she gets T-boned and is gone. All right. So the way that transcending time and space kind of works with the kind of molecules of the universe. And it's just almost like our car went right through that car and kept on going. All right. So everybody has these supernatural abilities. You're protected. You're protected. And that stuff can happen. All right. So
So
okay.
were you T-boned? I don't get that.
No,
Were y'all
no,
hit?
it's just, no,
No.
just keep on going. It's like, I think I swerved the car over around it, but the way I saw it is that guy's dead.
I see.
And Ann's, her version is she got
She
T-boned.
got hit and Francis.
So,
Interesting.
yeah. So, but I repeated that story to another person, and she had said she had a similar experience with her daughter in the car, and like a semi-truck was coming through her and just crushed her and her daughter, but the car just went through the truck. All right? So it's part of the spiritual abilities that we have and those supernatural powers, and we have to believe in them. And then getting back to Ray Moody, it's like I explained both those situations when I was 12 in the rollover incident to him, and he just says about the rollover incident, oh my God. It's like, so nobody, I don't wish a near-death experience on anybody. Okay. It's because there's going to be changes involved with it. All right. Come and face the strange. It's the way it is that way. So the thing of it is then it does push us forward from a 3D experience to the 4D and 5D. In the near-death experience when I was 12, that was the 5D. That was the oneness. That's the one where we get our abilities of the spiritual mastery, which then when we come back and make our changes in life, then that's where we have the spiritual discipline and the action. All right. To make sure that the world is one. All right. So that's kind of like what we're supercharged with. All right. And we have to go forward with those type of actions. So, but spiritually, when we're all going through 3D, 4D, and 5D, it's 3D is basically keeping up with the Joneses. I have to have a better job, a better car, better house, and hopefully not better debt. So, all right. So when we go to 4D is that spiritual awakening and awareness. But when you're in 4D, you're still in 3D. And all religions kind of are in 4D. They have a path, every religion has a path to the oneness or to God. And however, their path is better. That's what makes it still 3D, right? So, okay, so we have to understand, because of my near-death experience, we're all connected. And that's why that we should be achieving the 5D consciousness that we're in. Right? Everybody understand that one? It's like everybody knows the song Imagine by John Lennon. And one of the phrases, how does it go? All the people living life in peace, right? Okay, so that's kind of like a 4D thing, right? And when you look at it in 5D, look at all the people making the world a better place. All right, so, okay, we have to look at how we can help humanity then. And that's kind of like that glimpse of the near-death experience is, that's the difference, at least in my life, as to where we're going. How can we make the world a better place? How can we uplift people to make them aware of those changes? Okay, and in spiritualism, they kind of have another principle, which is called, I think it's number 7, 6 or 7. I believe it's 7. That, okay, by following nature's physical and natural laws, and a person makes his own happiness or unhappiness, right? Who wants to be unhappy for real? You know? All right. So we have to create our happiness. So, you know, it's like I also work with the Ascended Masters, and how they put it, there's one of the decrees that they say, let pain bring due reward of love and light. All right. And how do you define pain? Right? And that pain is more or less the pathway that we're going from the 3D to the 5D. And so a lot of people, religions will call this, you have to sacrifice. All right? So, okay, so we'll just change that little thing and just say, let the labors of the path bring due reward of love and light. Right? Get rid of that pain and sacrifice. All right? So, all right. So, with the near-death experience, we're supercharged. We have supernatural abilities, and we're going to make a change. All right? But the big change is to believe in yourself. All right? Nobody can change you, but you have to have that belief that you can do it. Right? And everybody can. All right? And another thing I like to say is that when we're connected with that oneness, just all that bliss, then we're part of that Christ consciousness. And that the God not only lives without, but within. All right? And so, because of that Christ consciousness, then the only one who can save yourself is yourself. All right? And that means believe in yourself. Right? It's take the purple Kool-Aid, kids, because we got to think positive. So, okay, I got another story about that. I don't want to share it. Okay. No, actually, the guy who went down to Jonestown, I worked in a hospital that he worked in. So, Okay, so whatever. So it's think positive. That's the purple Kool-Aid. Think positive. And if you believe in yourself, anything can happen because all those gifts of spirit are within you. And you have that power, that supernatural power.
That's not right. It's 3:45.
3:45?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay.
Okay, any questions then? Anybody? Okay, then,
I'd like to hear about your work at Casadega. What do you do there?
oh, my work in Casadega. So I have an office in Casadega. It's on the main street, Stevens Street.
She can
So,
tell you.
yeah, okay. So when Deb came in there, it's like it was early, but I was preparing for the workshop. So it's like, no, I'm not doing readings. It's done. So, right?
I got
What?
you up and going.
Yeah, well, see, I have an office there and I live 25 miles away. So you caught me early that day.
Yeah.
So, okay. So besides that, I do workshops in Casadega, but for the most part, I teach as well. And teaching, I teach spiritual healing, and then I have another class on Thursdays, which is metaphysical and spiritual knowledge. And that's available on Zoom as well. Just go to the Casadega page. And if you click on that event that day, the Zoom link is there.
And then I wanted to know a little bit, and I do have this book if anyone wants to check it out, that my son gave me actually years ago. But anyway, it's about crystals, and I wanted to know about your interest in rocks and crystals and
Okay.
stones.
Well, all right.
I mean, if you want to share that.
Okay, so my interest in rocks and crystals probably goes back to when I was 4 or 5 years old. So I'm pretty sure, remember those little kits they get when my brother, like, older brother turned 5, he got one of these chemistry kits. And then when I turned 5, with my twin brother, he got a biology kit. And so I got the geology kit. All right. So it comes with a little pick and all this stuff. So that got my interest going in crystals. And over the years, in any place I went, then I collected crystals, especially out in Colorado, out in Arizona, where I had traveled. And so the crystals about it, and I made trips to Hot Springs, Arkansas, many times to dig up crystals. And I've dug up crystals in North Carolina as well, and looking for them all over the place. Even in Maine, you can look for them up there. And Anne likes to get sea glass, though. All right, so. So then the crystals is each crystal has a vibration, right? So, and you can read that book and understand what the qualities of the crystals are, okay? But, right, I will always say this, don't give your power away to books. Right? When you get a crystal, be it amethyst, which is on the cover of that book, then you need to place it in your hand, all right? And feel that vibration. And just speak to the rock and ask it, what's your purpose to help me with? All right? So, and another thing with that, studying Native American cultures, and that when I went by Little Rock, Arkansas, they had a Toltec mount. All right, now the Toltecs were the predecessors of the Aztecs and the Mayans. So if you can imagine their territory extending all the way up into Arkansas, all the way down into the Yucatan Peninsula. So the Toltecs were the best crystal carvers in the world at that time. And some of them would say that some of the crystal skulls that we have were carved by them. So their theory was that if a person lived a good life on earth, that part of their spirit went into a crystal. All right? So when you look at that theory, when you work with the crystal, right, you should get to know where it comes from, because amethyst can come from the United States, from Brazil, from Russia, from Madagascar, all over the world. So what you need to do is find out where that came from, all right, and then meditate it with it. And you might find that you have a past life with that spirit in the rock. Right? So it's another way to work with crystals. But typically, picking out a crystal works with the law of attraction. If you go into a metaphysical store and you're looking at this crystals, you're going to get attracted by, probably the first thing is the color of it. All right. And the color of it then works with a lot of the energy of the universe. It's like being in that bliss and working, seeing, you know, the white light, but you could say it's the great cosmic central sun, which then all the rays of the universe from that are coming into Earth. So with the crystal, then with that color vibration, then that's what you're working with. So if it's rose quartz, it's going to be pink. So that vibration, typically, and you don't have to read it in the book, it is going to say unconditional love. All right. So we have a lot of unconditional love with that pink one. The book's not going to tell you is probably it has to deal with tough love as well. All right. And that's when to say no. All right. You're going to have to walk your own soul path. All right. Or soul journey. And, you know, it's like I said, the only one who can save yourself is yourself, and throwing money at it is a waste of time. But tough love there. And then you work with, say, bloodstone, right? So, which is green and has red spots on it. And so most people on a physical level will say, well, it's bloodstone. It's going to work with the the circulatory system, all right? Whether it be the heart, the lungs, or the arteries. But emotionally, probably what that book's not going to tell you is that is going to help with family matters, because, you know, blood is thicker. How's that?
Blood's thicker than water.
Yeah, blood is thicker than water. All right. So, and when you look at that, so then it's going to help resolve some um, family matters, like bridge over troubled waters coming in right now from Simon and Garfunkel. But that's what we want to do with that bloodstone, with the family emotionally. So the thing of it is, it's you got to trust your intuition on the crystals, and that's all what it's about. Yes, Tony.
Could you talk a little bit about, because I know that in the state of Cassadaga, sometimes spiritualism can be limited, but you've talked about mentioning the universal consciousness.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about our relationship and the universal consciousness and with some of the big shifts that our planet and we're supposed to be going through right now is about with that universal consciousness?
Okay, yeah, because then we're going out into what you would call the universal consciousness is what we call metaphysics, right? And Aristotle would say that metaphysics is just the study of light, is what it means. So we have this universal consciousness, which would be the bliss consciousness that everybody's experiencing. Now, from the great cosmic central sun, then we have a lot of energies coming into Earth that make the changes that are coming up. And astrologers would say that certain planets are aligned. I mean, we just had the Lion's Gate and then the 6 planets aligned. After that, we're looking at the 8th and the 10th of August. And so we look at these changes and what do they mean to us? All right. It's a consciousness that is coming in for 5D. But if you ignore it, nothing's going to happen. And that's why that group consciousness is needed. Right? That's like Deb asking for prayers for the surgery. That's a group consciousness. And you don't know how much just that request that you put out is coming in already. So, but there is a shift that is on its way. And it's been happening since 2012. All right, at what they call the end of the Mayan cycle, or what they would call the Aquarian age. And the Aquarian age is where we're at. Some people, said we're in it now. Some people will say it's like 2034. But okay. Well, because I've studied this, I have charts on it and everything. But for the most part, we are in that Aquarian age. All right. So it's now with the energies that are coming in, it's shifting towards that 5D. And the problem with the shift, and I'll go back to my changes, come and feel the strange, right? The people who are in power want to stay in power. So it's all like this group consciousness that we all need to get together and take the action that's needed. Prayers are one of the actions. So, all right. I was on like a radio show back in 2012, and I get a question in the chat room from a guy in, I guess, Argentina. And he goes to me, asking me a psychic question. It's like, will Chavez win the election? Right? What are you going to do? Flip a coin and say yes, no. And I didn't respond with that question. I just said, those who are in power will find a way to stay in power. All right, so, um, so that's the big challenge we have, is tearing down the walls and prayer and the 5D, self-mastery and discipline will do it. So hopefully that answered your question.
Do you want to start your activity?
Yeah, we can do that now.
Because we have until 4:30, so we have 30 minutes.
Okay, very good.
Do you want to talk about it first?
Okay, what we're gonna do is an activity which we call intuitive art. And basically, we go into a little meditation. You're gonna pick out about 7 colors. And then on a piece of paper, we're gonna stack them up all on some paints, fabric paints, all on top of another. And then we're gonna spread them out, and it will create a design. Some people call them butterflies. And I don't know if I have an example over there or not. So whatever. And then from there, then with your intuition, you can more or less read several, I guess, interpret it spiritually. And everybody is intuitive. I can guarantee you that in this one. And then I guess I can more or less interpret these. So this one is one that was created a while ago, but sometimes they'll come out like that. Oops. All right, so we have a tulip design over here, but we have more or less like a butterfly or a moth design on that one. But there's a lot of things. Images will come out in here, like you'll see your guides in here. Sometimes intuitively you will read these feathers on the sides like timelines. All right, but what we want to look in the center of the fold of the paper when we stack up these, this represents your chakras. So you want to look at the colors in there and see what's happening there. So, okay.
So we can do it, and then you'll explain a little bit more about the colors and what they represent somewhat.
Yeah, we
We
can.
want to do that now.
Okay, so usually we're going to use the chakra colors. All right, so you go into meditation, and basically meditation is going to be like a caterpillar in certain things. Like you're going to be spinning your chrysalis. And then you just imagine the first color, the second color, the third color. And it doesn't have to be like the chakras, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. It's just whatever comes to your mind first. And then for the example of the colors, red would be about family, love, strength, vitality, survival. Orange would be abundance and what you want to attract in your life. Yellow would be your personal power and your will. Green would be unconditional love and forgiveness, gratitude, those type of, and love. Right? The throat would be about communication, either with spirit or with people on the light plane, on the earth plane. The indigo is going to work with your intuition. And then the crown is going to be your connection, or that violet connection with the universe.
Okay.
All right? Okay.
Anyone have questions?
And then we have black, silver, and gold. So black is the color of empowerment, and Silver and gold are the feminine and masculine sides of divinity. Okay.
Go back to the tables. Yeah. Let's go back. Those of you that
thank
want to participate, we're gonna meet back here. And Dr. Phil will have the art